Hi guys, and welcome to another one of my tips. I recently mentioned the importance of keeping up with the latest exploits and developments for security professionals. Here I'm talking about another recent vulnerability discovered for the sudo command in versions earlier than 1.8.28. You know this. I have an earlier version here which I didn't update on purpose. These older versions are affected by a very dangerous vulnerability that allows non-root users to run root commands, basically. Now we're going to demo this vulnerability and discuss briefly about its real impact on businesses and real-world pen tests. So this is the CVE that was released with regard to this vulnerability. And basically the problem is the sudo in these earlier versions allowed to run commands through a uSwitch, which indicates a specific user we want to basically impersonate. The uSwitch also allows to add a numeric value, and now if we add the -1 value, this pseudo version practically doesn't know how to interpret it and consider that as 0, and we know that 0 is the user ID of the root user in any Unix Linux system. So in order to demo this vulnerability, we need to add the specific setting to the etc file because it doesn't work per se. So normally the root user can run any commands, but we might want to make the change and prevent some commands from being run as root user. So I created a non-root user called Matt here. And I already told you I have a vulnerable version of sudo here. So now if we change the etc file and we go to the privilege specification for any user we have in the system, we can add a specific configuration for the Matt user. And what we're doing here is basically saying that this user can run any commands but the ID command as root user. That exclamation mark root means non-root, basically. So let's save this file and let's check if this worked. You notice that I tried to run the ID command through sudo, but I can't do that. I have a specific error message saying I can't run ID as root on Kali from user Matt, which is what I wanted to achieve. Now let's demo the vulnerability. If we enter a -1 as a user ID and we run the ID command, now you'll notice something interesting. You notice that we can run ID as root user even though we clearly indicated that that was forbidden. So this is a flaw that was recently discovered and basically allows an attacker to reach a privilege escalation, or anyway to run commands that they weren't supposed to run as root. With that being said, the impact of this vulnerability real world, in my opinion, remains pretty limited because, first of all, you need to have access with valid credentials to the system. Secondly, you need to have an interactive shell, which might not always be the case, but anyway, if you don't have an interactive shell, you can't even run sudo. Third of all, the specific configuration needs to be in place, and that's not so common. This is not a configuration you find all over the place, and as a matter of fact, not all administrators choose to implement such a configuration for the sudoers file. As for real-world pen tests, this is anyway something important to know because it's another attack vector you need to be aware of. And this clears once again how important it is for especially red teamers to know about the latest exploits in order to take advantage of them in their real-world pen testing engagements. Because otherwise they can miss an opportunity to add value for the customers, because at the end of the day, what the customer finds value in penetration tests is just the exploitation part, because some clients run their own vulnerability scans with Nessus or other tools, so they might already be aware of certain issues. The added value for clients is just our penetration testing activity and how we were able to validate and exploit vulnerability, especially through manual validation. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video. So see you in another tip and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye bye.